Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's unpack this one today. We're looking at something really quite new. It's a move by the Trump administration to use military lawyers, JZs, as temporary immigration judges. This isn't just a small policy tweak. It really pushes at the boundaries between military and civilian roles. And, well, it could affect millions of people. We're drawing from a really insightful PBS NewsHour interview that looked into this. So our mission here is to figure out what this actually means. What are the legal angles? Is it practical? What about fairness for that massive immigration backlog? It's complicated. Let's get into it. All right, first things first. What exactly is happening? The Pentagon confirmed it, right? They're finding qualified judge advocates.
That's right, JGs. And it's at the request of the Department of Justice, the DOJ.
And their job to step in as temporary immigration judges, it feels like a pretty significant step.
It really is. And, the official reason given is important here. The Pentagon statement says these DOD lawyers are meant to augment existing resources, basically to help tackle that huge backlog of cases by actually presiding over immigration hearings.
Okay, augment existing resources. Sounds straightforward enough.
On the surface, yeah. It sounds like bringing in more hands to deal with a big problem. But as we'll see, it's not quite that simple. There's a lot underneath that.
Definitely. And just hearing military lawyers in civilian judicial roles immediately signals this is, well, different, novel. We're not talking JAGs handling courts-martial. This is crossing over into a purely civilian court system. So what's the first big legal question that pops up?
Well, yeah, the absolute first thing, and it came up straight away in the interview, is just, is this legal? Can you actually expand the military's role into a civilian judicial process like this? There's a pretty strong tradition and often legal walls keeping military and civilian government functions separate.
Right. It's fundamental.
Exactly. It's not just moving people around administratively. It touches on how our government is structured. James McPherson, and he knows this world, having been Undersecretary of the Army under Trump and with a long Navy career, he was very clear about this. He said, there are certainly a lot of legal issues raised by this decision. He specifically questioned if it's even appropriate to appoint a commissioned military officer to this kind of civilian judge position.
Because they're under a different command structure.
Precisely. Commissioned officers have a chain of command, a military oath. Civilian judges are supposed to be independent. That's a key difference. And he also wondered if it might actually violate an existing law that's meant to keep those military and civilian powers separate.
So it's not just any lawyer, it's specifically a military officer. That's the nub of the legal concern, the chain of command issue.
Yes. And McPherson did acknowledge that apparently the Department of Justice believes it's okay, legally speaking, but only in a narrow sense.
A narrow sense. That sounds cautious.
It does. And he immediately followed up by saying the full implications, especially appointing them as temporary judges, well, that remains to be seen.
That gap between narrow sense legality and full implications feels like where the risk is. What could go wrong there?
Well, the danger is that a narrow legal okay might miss the practical problems of putting military lawyers into this highly specialized civilian role. It's like asking a heart surgeon to suddenly do brain surgery. Both doctors, yes, but the specialism is totally different, which leads us straight to the skills and training needed, because immigration law is famously tricky.
Yeah, it really is. Specialized and complex doesn't even quite cover it sometimes. You've got layers of statutes, case law that changes constantly, and, incredibly high stakes for the people involved.
Yeah.
So even if JAGs are skilled lawyers, how do their skills from, say, military justice translate to asylum law or deportation proceedings?
And that's where this recent rule change is absolutely critical. McPherson explained that just the week before his interview, the DOJ changed the rules for who could be a temporary immigration judge. Think about this. Before the change, you needed serious specific experience, like a retired immigration judge, or retired administrative law judge, or get this, 10 years practicing immigration law.
10 years. Okay, that's a high bar. Makes sense given the complexity.
Right. But the new rule, after the change, it says any licensed attorney can be appointed temporary immigration judge.
Any licensed attorney. Wow.
Yeah. It's a huge shift, a dramatic one. So while JAGs are definitely capable attorneys, their expertise is military law. Going from needing a decade of immigration experience to just any licensed attorney creates this, well, potential knowledge vacuum.
So how do they fill that vacuum? What's the plan?
McPherson pointed out they'll obviously need training, time to learn intricacies of immigration law. And apparently, NPR reported they'd get just 2 weeks of training.
2 weeks? Seriously? For immigration law, compared to 10 years experience?
Exactly, 2 weeks.
That seems Incredibly short, almost impossible when you think about asylum claims, the nuances of deportation cases, family separation issues. These are life-altering decisions.
It really does.
Can 2 weeks possibly be enough to prepare someone for that? It sounds like asking for mistakes to happen.
That's a very real worry. And it's not just about memorizing rules. Immigration judges deal with unique situations, cultural contexts, humanitarian issues. 2 weeks might cover the bare bones, maybe. But grasping the nuances that even experienced immigration lawyers struggle with, it really makes you wonder about the expectation level here.
Okay, so legal questions, training questions. What about the people standing before these judges? What about impartiality? If you have someone who is part of the military, answering to that chain of command, also acting as a civilian judge, could that raise doubts about their neutrality, especially in sensitive immigration cases?
McPherson admitted it certainly could raise those impartiality questions, yes.
Hmm.
But he also expressed a kind of hope, you know, that any officer taking this on would understand their job is to administer justice fairly. He hoped they would step away if they felt pressured to do otherwise.
Step away. That's hoping for a lot, isn't it? Given the military structure and maybe political pressures around immigration. And these judges have immense power. Revoking green cards, ordering deportation, that's life-changing stuff.
And that combination, the huge power and the potential lack of deep experience, that's what really worried McPherson. He was quite blunt. He said inexperienced judges could inadvertently make mistakes.
Which would be devastating for individuals.
Absolutely. Devastating for people's lives. And he added it would also create issues to the appellate courts. So more appeals, more clogs in the system.
Kind of undermining the whole point of speeding things up.
Potentially, yes. He explicitly said, I don't think it's a good idea.
Mm.
And he pointed out something else, a kind of irony he felt.
Oh.
Well, he found it pretty surprising that this administration would turn to JAGs now, considering that the Secretary of Defense back during his confirmation hearing had apparently used derogatory and obscene terms to describe uniformed military attorneys.
Really? That's quite a contrast.
It is. McPherson said he was genuinely surprised that suddenly these same lawyers are seen as capable of learning such an intricate area of law in only 2 weeks. It highlights a sort of disconnect, doesn't it, between past rhetoric and present action. Suggests maybe it's more about finding a quick fix than a deep belief in their suitability for this specific, complex role.
That is quite a turnaround. From being dismissed to being the potential solution. It does make you wonder about the real drivers here. Is it purely about fixing the backlog, or is there more to it?
Which brings us right back to the sheer scale of the problem they're trying to address. That backlog, you mentioned it earlier, it's massive.
Right, the numbers are staggering. Nearly 4 million cases, I heard.
Yeah, McPherson quoted figures from January showing over 4 million cases pending. Over 4 million. And think about this. The system is authorized for about 600 judges. But, he said, many quit or retired early under the administration. So you've got these great holes in that court system, fewer judges than planned, facing this mountain of cases. It's a structural breakdown, really.
So these temporary JAG judges are meant to plug those great holes.
That seems to be the idea.
Yeah.
But is it a real fix, even temporarily? McPherson was very clear on that. He said flat out, it is not sustainable to get through the backlog.
Not sustainable.
No. He seemed to view it more as a politically expedient move, something that looks like action, addresses immediate pressure perhaps, but doesn't solve the underlying problems.
The fundamental issues like judge vacancies, funding, the sheer number of cases coming in.
Exactly. Those deep systemic problems aren't really touched by this. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a major wound. It might look like you're doing something, but it's not fixing the core issue.
So summing this up, it's incredibly complex, isn't it? You've got this undeniable crisis, the huge backlog, the human cost of delays, and then you have this proposed solution using military lawyers, which, while maybe addressing capacity short-term, throws up serious questions. Legality, training, fairness, impartiality. It really highlights that constant tension between needing efficiency in government and needing to ensure justice and due process, especially when people's lives hang in the balance.
Absolutely. And maybe stepping back even further, thinking about the bigger picture here. What does this kind of move tell us? What does it signal when we try to fix deep systemic problems with these kinds of temporary, maybe even reactive measures? Does it risk undermining the long-term health of our legal systems? And what about the real people involved? What are the consequences for them when we make rapid changes to complex judicial processes, maybe without fully thinking through all the effects? For you listening now, what really stands out? Where do you see the balance between that urgent need for efficiency and the fundamental need for due process? It's certainly something to think about.